I'm Jess Lenore for the Real News Network. We're here in Philadelphia in front of City Hall. We're at a Bernie or Bust protest. Dr. Jill Stein, the Green Party presidential candidate, just addressed this crowd of a couple hundred people. She got a raucous applause, urging people to vote their conscience, vote to address the issues that are plaguing America, and not support Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. We're now joined by Ben Norton. He's a journalist for Salon.com. You've been here all week, and you're at the RNC as well. Talk about why you're here and what your impressions have been so far. The first day of this convention ended last night, and some controversy. Talk about what's been going on with you.
Well, I think people in general, people on the inside of the convention and outside, rank and file people, average people, workers are really tired of, the few options they have available to them. I spoke with a lot of Sanders delegates last night, and few of them are excited about supporting Clinton. Really, the only argument that really prevails all of these conventions is the other side is bad, so you have to support us. And it's a really dispiriting kind of environment. I see very few positive messages. Michelle Obama last night tried to make her speech very positive in that way, but a lot of it is, if you listen to Sanders' speech, it was Trump is such a horrible candidate that we must endorse Clinton to defeat Trump. And at the Republican convention, it was Clinton is such a horrible candidate, we must get behind Trump to defeat Clinton. And I think seeing protests like this, they are very inspiring because you see Americans who are really demanding progressive change outside of the establishment who refuse to say we must choose one of these two evils. And they say, we live in a democracy and we want to choose an option that actually appeals to us and choose a politician who actually may represent our interests.
And so, the counterpoint, and some of the people we've talked to share your view. I mean, share the view you just expressed. But also there's people that say, we want to build a third party movement. We want to continue grassroots movements, but we have to defeat Trump first. And that's also what Sanders' message was, because, and others have made this point that if Trump is elected, then he's going to set progress back so far that it's going to hurt every marginalized community across this country. But that doesn't seem to be resonating with some people, and even people in swing states. It's even people we talked to in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and in Cleveland, in Ohio. Even though they know it's a swing state, they say they're still going to vote their conscience. And so, now Trump is doing the best he's ever done in national polls, and Hillary has her highest unfavorability ratings she's had in this election cycle.
Yeah, well, I think I'm pretty confident that Clinton is going to win. Trump is too extreme of a candidate. But even aside from that, I'm not very convinced that a Trump candidacy would be an apocalyptic event. I think it would be bad. I also think a Clinton presidency would be bad. And I think we have to think about it not just in terms of who's in office, but what that effect is on the larger political milieu. Because if you look at the Bush administration, you look at the Obama administration, there are many similarities, especially on foreign policy, national security, clampdown on journalists, etc. But one of the primary differences between them is the grassroots activism. And if you look at the Bush administration, there was enormous grassroots pressure against the administration.
Especially against the Iraq War. It was an unprecedented level of global protests before the war even started, which was really never happened before.
Absolutely. And when Obama was voted in, it immediately shrunk, and shrunk exponentially. So I think we should think of it not just in terms of who's in office. If Trump enters office, we will probably see a renewed wave of activism that we haven't seen maybe since the 1960s in this country, and I think that would be very healthy for democracy. I don't think a Trump presidency would be a good thing by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we should just think of it not just in terms of who's in office. Also, I think if we had a Trump presidency, that would encourage progressives to run for local office, to run for, Congress, etc. So I don't think we should think of this, apocalyptic view of politics. I think we should think of it more in terms of what different layers of society will react in different ways, and think about how, as people on the left, we can push for progressive change, regardless of, what layer of society it is. I mean, the presidency is an important role, but ultimately the presidency is very limited. Usually you have a choice between a kind of centrist candidate and a right-wing candidate.
Well, some of the issues that people have raised are the next president will make at least one or maybe more Supreme Court picks. they'll have to act on climate change with urgency. Now, we saw the massive protest against fracking and environmental change on Sunday. So people aren't happy in the grassroots with Clinton, especially with the pick of Tim Kaine as vice president, with his track record. But Trump didn't even mention climate change in his speech with accepting the Republican nomination. So as far as those two issues go, for example, some Clinton supporters are even hesitant. People say they're going to back Clinton. They see those two issues as apocalyptic in a way.
Well, absolutely. I mean, climate change is, there's no question, the biggest problem we face as a planet. And I think it's imperative that we do something about it. That said, you know, Clinton, her record on climate change and fossil fuels and such is not a positive one. You know, she's criticized fracking now, but in the past when she was Secretary of State and before, she was supportive of fracking. You know, she now claims to oppose the TPP, but again, she previously supported it, which would also be horrific for the environment. And yeah, Clinton, and she actually accepts that climate change is a real thing, but that's such a basic bare standard that it's not enough. We really are facing a catastrophic, impending catastrophic situation with climate change, and we do need, systemic change and serious action. And 4 years or 8 years of a Clinton presidency, I think will do very little to stop that. And I also think one of the discussions that's kind of removed from a lot of this is looking at things in the long term and not just the short term. There's no question that Trump would be horrific as a candidate, but if we have 4 or 8 years of Clinton, of more wars, of more austerity, of another economic crisis and potential bailouts of banks and large corporations, etc., you think Trump is bad now, wait for what we'll see in 4 or 8 years. I mean, this is not a problem that's going to go away. The Republican Party has lurched to the far right, and this is the future of the Republican Party. So I think we really need to talk about how we can pressure all politicians, but especially the Democratic Party, and say, we're not just going to obey, we're going to push you from the left and say, we need you to adopt these policies. We need you to ban fracking. We need you to move toward renewable energy. And the Green Party and the Sanders movement are doing these kinds of things, among other independent parties. And if we don't pressure the Democratic Party, I'm afraid, and I think it's quite possible that the Democratic Party won't take the steps that we need to address climate change, and we'll still face the climate catastrophe that we could face now.
I think that's a really good analysis, because regardless of who's in office, it's going to be up to the grassroots movements to pressure them. Some would say that Clinton would be more receptive to grassroots pressure, but again, the point you raised about where that movement is going to go, where the movement went, that was so massive under Bush, was sort of evaporated under Obama. That's something the movement's still going to have to deal with going forward. Ben Norton, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us at the Real News Network.